Hey Space Cadets, Lanchen here. Today I'm going to be talking about 5 ways to help make your work look more realistic. I decided to do this by drawing an eye using graphite pencils and charcoal pencils. I feel like a lot of people have these materials, so it's easy. Drawing an eye shouldn't be that time consuming. You have yourself to use as a reference, and in practicing these techniques, you can carry this over into other mediums of artwork as well. As you may know, I paint space, so I don't really paint eyes too often, but this is the one thing that I drew back in the day that really taught me a lot about realism, shadows, and lighting. Pretty much what you just watched is me drawing a basic eye, and I'd say most people stop at the graphite stage, but here I decided to add a little bit of charcoal to show that some people maybe do go to this stage a little further and try to, add more contrast to their drawing, and it might not look how they want. But guys, with the correct methods, you can make this look extremely realistic, so let's just jump into how you do that. The first thing you need is materials that are good, so make sure you're using a drawing pad with paper that is right for what you are working on. I'm using a medium surface. It's going to be perfect for blending. I'm also using graphite pencil, blending stick, and charcoal in black and white. So first I'm going to make an outline with my graphite pencil, and I actually erase it. I don't like the markings that it leaves when you go over it with charcoal, but that's just my personal preference, and I can still see a little outline there. Even though you can't, I could see it. Now I'm going to go over that outline with my charcoal pencil and start to blend it out with my blending stick. I'm also going to be using this piece of leather to remove some of the charcoal and add color throughout this process. The reference photo I was looking at, the eye was very dark, so depending on your reference photo, make sure that you're trying to mimic it exactly, and you're mimicking the contrast, the highlights, the shadows, everything. That's why I was making this eye so dark. Now I am creating the waterline on the inside of the eye with my white charcoal. So I say the first step in creating something more realistic is identifying where your light source is, so that way you can create shadows and highlights in a realistic way. So if your light was hitting you from the left side, then your shadows would be falling to the right side, and so on. This makes it much easier when you are trying to make something more realistic with anything. So that would be my first tip. Even if you don't have a reference photo, you can still identify your own light source by saying where the light is going to be coming from and going from there. My second tip would be to blend. This goes with any sort of art form where you are trying to create realism. Blending will be your best friend, so take the extra time to learn how to do it in any medium. And this kind of takes me to step number 3, which is avoid any harsh lines. So to avoid harsh lines, you'll just want to blend out everything. So if you are working on step number 2, which is blending, you shouldn't have any harsh lines, but it's important that you understand that harsh lines should not exist. Number 4 is add details and highlights. So this kind of goes back into, if you identify where your light source is coming from, then you will know where to add your details and highlights. So if you were looking at a photo, which you should be looking at a reference photo, or even your own eye, you will see that your eyelashes don't just consist of a dark color, but they also consist of light hitting them from a certain angle. So it's really important that you just look closely to your reference photo and look at the things you normally wouldn't look at. That's the only thing I can say, because when you initially look at a photo, you probably won't be paying attention to the tiniest details, but when you actually start to get into realism and drawing something realistic, you have to pay attention to those things, because it might go unnoticed to you initially, but when you're drawing it, you start to notice. And this takes me to number 5, which is the last tip, and I should have said this first, but guys, it's use a reference photo. Reference photos are great for help. There's nothing out there that can be more realistic than the real thing, so practicing by looking at something and trying to replicate it is a great way to learn, and to learn very fast. I'd say if you have something that you want to learn, try drawing it multiple times, 10 times at least, looking at a reference photo, and I promise you, you will greatly improve your skills and your techniques by doing it. To cover everything I just talked about, number 1, add shadows by identifying a light source. Number 2, make sure you blend. Number 3, avoid harsh lines. Number 4, add highlights. And number 5, make sure you use a reference photo. It's been a while since I've drawn an eye, but looking back at this video, I definitely see where I could have improved certain things, and that's really good because that means that I'm still learning and I can still grow. But I do hope that you guys liked this video and you got some good use out of it and it taught you something. If you liked it, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. And if you are interested in seeing more of my artwork, you can find my work at Lanchen Designs. Thanks again so much for watching, and I will see you all next time.
Hello, your call cannot be taken at the moment.